today's invitation. We are fortunate in this Bay Area to have kind of two of the state of Florida's, if not nationally, some of the most significant experts on perhaps both sides of this issue when it comes to gun rights, First Amendment rights, or Second Amendment rights, excuse me, and how that pertains with the evolution in our law. And so the past 2 to 3 years, we have seen an increasing number of bills filed, particularly in Tallahassee, related to this. We will have an early legislative session this year, and we wanted to get a little bit ahead of the curve and bring these folks together over lunch to speak with you about these issues and better inform all of you, as well as allow you to ask questions that might further deepen our understanding on the issues. We are going to go in alphabetical order, which means the gentleman with the last name Young goes second, so he has more time to eat. So our first guest today is Professor Marjorie Sanfilippo, who is a psychology professor and associate dean of faculty at Eckerd College. She's the author of several empirical articles describing her research on children's behaviors around firearms, particularly following educational interventions. She has testified multiple times in front of the state legislature and has appeared multiple times on national television news programs speaking on her research related to children and firearms. It gives us great pleasure to welcome Margie with us today, and she will give opening remarks of no greater than 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. And thank you all for being here. I'm hoping that this isn't nearly as nerve-wracking as it is to stand up in front of the legislature where you know that all of the people that you're looking at were going to vote against what you are proposing. So this is a little bit of a kinder audience. My talk is not going to be about the Second Amendment. I don't believe that this issue is about the Second Amendment. The right to bear arms is guaranteed by the Constitution. There's no doubt about that. I'm not even particularly opposed to guns. I was raised in a military family by a father who went on to be was a military policeman, and we had guns in our home. This is, however, about the limitations to that. In 2008, D.C. versus Heller said that affirmed that the right to bear arms was an individual right. It wasn't about militias. We don't really know what the founding fathers actually thought, but D.C. versus Heller said that it was an individual right, but that it was not without limits. And they said that there were limits on the people that should own guns. For example, I think we all agree felons probably should not own guns, nor do I think anybody with a history of domestic violence should own a gun. And they also said that there were limits with respect to what they call sensitive areas. Right now, the only sensitive areas nationwide in which guns are not permitted is government buildings, although there is a movement underway in several states to change that. Other sensitive areas, as outlined by D.C. versus Heller, included schools, churches, hospitals, bars, and political venues. My argument and my particular focus is on schools. As Kelly said, I work at Eckerd College. I've been a college professor since 1993, psychology professor, and have watched how students have changed over the last almost 25 years. I'm really dating myself here. And there have been some changes, and I'll describe some of those in just a little bit. I also want to say that this is not about the inadequacies about training for concealed carry permits. All states allow people to concealed carry guns. Most require a permit. Most states require a permit. 11 do not. About half require safety training of some type, but only in 6 states are you required to actually know how to shoot a gun to get a concealed carry permit. It's harder to get your driver's license than it is to get your concealed carry permit. Florida, just by way of mention here, is a shall issue state, not a may issue state, so that's one of those that's less restricted than a may issue state. You do have to be 21 years old, you pay a $102 fee, and go through a background check, although it's not the background check by NICS, the federal government background check, it's by the Department of Agriculture. and then you can have your concealed carry permit. That's residents and non-residents in Florida. So I'm going to turn my attention now to schools, and in particular colleges and universities, and tell you tell you first that people don't want it. When I say people, I mean college presidents that have signed on, campus safety officers, campus police officers have all come out with statements saying they don't want students to be able to carry conceal on college campuses. Faculty are opposed. Faculty in states where they've passed concealed carry laws have resigned their positions or made other such statements. And even students themselves, 3 times as many students don't want than do want guns on their college campuses. Students at Eckerd don't even wear shoes. I don't know where they would put them. So I'm going to read you 2 quotes and ask you who you think said them. No student shall, within the precincts of the university, introduce, keep, or use weapons or arms of any kind. That would be Thomas Jefferson and James Madison in 1804, speaking about the policy at the University of Virginia, our forefathers. And here's the second one. We believe in absolutely gun-free, zero-tolerance, totally safe schools. That was Wayne LaPierre, president of the National Rifle Association in 1999. Clearly, they have done a complete 180 on that. So why are colleges so sensitive? Why do we want to keep guns off college campuses? I can tell you a couple of reasons. One, the mental health of college students is at its lowest point as it has been in decades. We could have an entire luncheon talking about why that is, but I can tell you that the number of students that have anxiety and depression on college campuses has absolutely skyrocketed. 1,000 students commit suicide every year, and another 20 to 30% think about killing themselves every year. What's interesting is that more students on college campuses use non-lethal means, such as substances, than the same age cohort who live off campuses who are more likely to use weapons. And obviously using a weapon to kill yourself is going to be much more successful, I hate to use that word in suicide, than to use substances. So that begs the question of why do students off campus use guns and students on campus use substances? And there's many researchers, myself included, who believe that it is about access. A survey that I did of college counselors found that in states where in schools in states where concealed carry is permitted, they had 42.9% rate of suicides by firearm, and on the campuses where concealed carry was not permitted, that rate was only 13.3%. Another reason why I don't think guns belong on a college campus is because of stress. You add, and really these are all a sort of accumulation of stressors. We have we have high rates of mental health, high rates of stress over grades, relationships. 18 to 24 is the age range where most mental illnesses occur, where the greatest amount of stress occurs. They're living in close quarters with one another. They have stress about their future, about how they're going to pay for college, about their grades. And then you add to that substance abuse on college campuses, which really hasn't changed much since when we were in school, except that it's more dangerous now. Students aren't drinking. We don't have more students drinking. We just have them drinking more dangerously and having to be transported to the hospital with high rates of alcohol, poisoning, and a combination of alcohol and drugs. Add a gun to that mix, and I think we see why guns aren't allowed in bars. Sensitive topics on college campuses, talking about everything from the riots in Charlottesville, the politics that are going on, all of that. That's pretty typical discourse on a college campus, and tempers can flare, and we don't want guns around that. Lastly, college campuses include stadiums, hospitals, child care buildings, administrative buildings, offices. Students right now in Texas are allowed to conceal carry into a disciplinary hearing. They already have to check the guns at the door there. So I have no idea what my partner over here is going to be talking about. I can tell you that when I go to Tallahassee, what I hear a lot of is fear-mongering. The students should have the right to defend themselves against, as Marion Hammer said to me, terrorists, rapists, and murderers on college campuses, which I can tell you, just stroll through Petersburg College campus. Kelly can tell you, we don't have a lot of terrorists, rapists, and murderers running around. Campuses are safe. Campuses are safer than the surrounding area, and we want to keep it that way. Finally, I just would like to say that I think that our policy should be informed by empirical evidence and research, not by fear-mongering, not by anecdotes, and not by overzealous interpretations of the Second Amendment. I think we should abide by what Thomas Jefferson and James Madison said, and that guns have no place on college campuses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margie. I won't share what Judge Makoff said about Eckerd College. I had words with him afterwards as well, as will Mayor Priceman. Quickly, before I introduce Jeff Young, I failed to mention and thank Radio St. Pete for broadcasting live today's lunch and conversation, and then it will be available on Facebook afterwards via their podcast archive. And then I also want to thank 88.5 WMNF Community Conscious Radio for being with us here today as well, and continuing to expand the audience for today's conversation. Our second guest today is Jeff Young, affectionately known throughout the state of Florida as the gun lawyer. Jeff is a staunch supporter of the Constitution's Second Amendment, a gun owner, an avid shooter, as well as a proud member of the National Rifle Association. He is very active in the Florida gun community, having donated time and effort to numerous gun groups and charities. His personal law practice focuses on representing individuals seeking restoration of their civil right to possess a firearm, drafting a National Firearms Act NFA trust to allow them to purchase suppressors or other NFA items, or also defending people who are forced to use their firearm in self-defense. Jeff has driven all the way up from Sarasota today, and we're very appreciative that you joined us. Thanks very much, Jeff.
Good afternoon. A couple things real quick. I'm the one who's responsible for the heartbreak. I do have a 2 o'clock sentencing hearing on a robbery case in Sarasota, so if I'm late, maybe one of the circuit judges can bring me down there and tell them I'm sorry. I'm not going to talk for 10 minutes. It might be surprising to hear that from a lawyer, but I'll just sum up a few things. They do call me the gun lawyer. It's not a phrase that I picked up. I started doing firearm law a few years ago. I actually have a cousin of mine who owns a firearm shop. And believe it or not, up until about 3 years ago, I had never owned a firearm in my life. And then I started kind of getting into it. I bought my first one, got my concealed weapons permit, kind of really enjoyed everything that was related to the firearm community. They're not all a bunch of Neanderthal, knuckle-dragger, crazy rednecks with shotguns in the back of their car. They're all very straightforward people. They're all good citizens. They're very patriotic Americans, and they're all responsible gun owners. So when I got into that community, I decided that there are a bunch of people who they didn't really have a lot of help with certain issues. I know one of the things that was brought up was felons shouldn't have guns. And a lot of people don't know this in Florida, but if you shoplift anything over $300, that makes you a felony. I had a young girl yesterday who shoplifted one shirt from Saks that was worth $542. She has no prior criminal history because she shoplifted one shirt, but she's now a felon. That person is no longer allowed to have a firearm. If you write a worthless check that you know is worthless and you pass it at a bank or a store, that's a felony. So when we talk about these general concepts of this group of people shouldn't be able to have a gun or this certain people shouldn't be able to have a gun, I think you have to dig a little bit deeper into the nuances. And thankfully, a few years ago, Florida passed a law that allows certain felons to restore their firearm rights. You got to fill out an application, you go through the process, but for those people with those type of crimes that I'm talking about, can restore their rights. So I just don't like the idea of painting large swaths of people with inabilities to possess firearms, including college students or people who visit college campuses. There's all kinds of people that go to college campuses. They're just not college students. There's teachers, there's staff, there's parents, there's older students who may be taking night classes or whatever. So again, you're talking blanket brushes with things when it comes to firearm laws. So what I focus on is I do a lot of self-defense stuff with Stand Your Ground. Everybody's probably heard of Stand Your Ground. There's a lot of self-defense things that happens in Florida, and I help people try and restore their rights that should otherwise be able to have a firearm. I'm not some big super NRA person. I don't push them. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in states' rights and individual rights. And if a state wants to pass an open carry law, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. We can have these debates up in the legislature about firearms on campus, et cetera, and those are great debates to have. But I'm simply here to try and paint a better face to the firearm community, who I believe, and a lot of them believe, kind of get painted with this broad brush of being these bad people who just think everybody should have a gun, whether they're criminals or have mental health problems or whatever, and that's not the vast majority of them. That's not even what the NRA actually believes. So I'm going to stop talking now because I don't have a lot of time. I want to make sure we get to everybody's questions. So thanks for having me, and I look forward to hopefully I can answer some of your issues.
So we're going to open up the floor now. I've told our frequently overzealous Corey Adler, who's on the gong, that since these are not elected officials, we will be somewhat more lenient in allowing them to get into some of the nuance that Jeff just mentioned in this type of conversation. So we typically limit our responses to 2 minutes, but obviously if either one of you would like a little bit of extra time, I think we're going to have a special exception today. So right now we're going to open it up to Q&A, and we will allow both of you to go back and forth, and I'm going to give you, Jeff, the mic as well. So Margie, if you want to pick your first question.
Yeah, Margie. Corey?
Wait,
All overzealously time, yeah.
Hi, I'm Corey Adler, the overzealous person. Mr. Young,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to understand how I can relate to members of the NRA who are law-abiding citizens not taking up the cause to not allow guns to be sold, for instance, at gun shows, and why military-type weapons are allowed to be sold. I don't understand why they're not in front of that issue so that their reputation is not tainted by the people who are using them inappropriately. So why aren't they in front of this issue?
We'll take two issues. The first one is the gun show. There is no such thing as a gun show loophole. If you go to a gun show, you're going to find two types of people selling guns there. You're going to find gun shops who take their stuff on the weekend and go set up a gun show. They have to go through a background check. If you buy a gun from those people at the gun show, it's just like if you bought it at the shop. You have to fill out the same background form, they call FDLE, they run through all the paperwork, you do everything you do at the shop. So there is background checks at gun shows. Second table at a gun show is usually a really old guy who's got a few old handguns and maybe a few old rifles that are sitting up there that he calls his personal collection. If you buy from that guy, you don't have to go through a background check because that's considered a private sale. That would happen whether it was at the gun show, or you bought it at his garage sale, or he was on a Facebook sale post, or whatever. So the gun show issue, it's fake. There's no such thing as a gun show loophole. If you go into a gun show and buy from a dealer, you have to go through a background check. If you buy from a private person, it's not just because they're at the gun show, it's because they're a private person. So what you're really talking about is banning private sales, essentially saying you can't do a private sale or a private transfer of a firearm without doing a background check. So that would encompass a father who wanted to hand a firearm down to his child as a gift. It would cover a husband who bought a gun and wanted to give it to his wife for her birthday. He would have to do a background check before he could give her the firearm. So the issue isn't gun shows, the issue is private sales. And if people want to ban private sales, then that's a discussion that we can have. But to phrase it as a gun show loophole is incorrect. The second issue that I was discussed about is these military-style weapons. The problem with that is definition. We're lawyers, so everything that we talk about involves definition. What is a military-style weapon? Are you talking about how it looks? Because you can take a rifle that shoots a .22 caliber bullet, which is the smallest bullet that they make, and dress it all up black and scary and call it an assault rifle. Or you can take that same bullet, or you can take a larger bullet, which is a .556, which is a military round, and you can put it in a bolt-action rifle, which only fires one shot at a time. So are we talking about how the firearm looks? Are we talking about the size of the caliber? Assault, as the lawyers would tell you, is an action. It's not an item. It's not a product. There's no such thing as an assault weapon. It's a made-up term that doesn't cover any firearm that I've ever seen or I'm made aware of. So I think the NRA and most firearm problems have to do with the fact that you can't define that term and it just opens it up to too big of an issue.
For you, Jeff.
Yeah.
I cannot understand how intelligent people can so vehemently support an industry whose primary and only purpose is to kill. We're not talking about farmers. We're not talking about automobile manufacturers. We're not talking about dairymen. We're talking about companies who create devices whose only purpose is to kill. Now, don't talk to me about, I got 10 seconds. Don't talk to me about competition, shooting competition, or hunting that's killing also.
Question.
Why is there so much vehement support for an industry, not individuals, an industry that, again, only purpose is makes devices, its only purpose